Hi guys, welcome. My name is Amanda. For those of you that are new to the channel, for those of you who've been here before, welcome back again, and to friends and family, g'day. Alrighty, let's do some reverse meal prepping, and that's going to be something that we do quite a lot over the next year, but especially at the moment as I'm going through doing an inventory of the pantries. What it is it's finding items that need to be used fairly quickly instead of making meals based on what you particularly would like and then going and getting the ingredients for it. Instead, it's using the ingredients that you already have and making your meals based around those ingredients. Now, I have most of the ingredients for most recipes already in our pantries because we've pretty well stocked coming into our 365 no spend pantry challenge. But what I am doing is going through doing the inventory of the dry stores and the pantry in the kitchen, which is, it's a pretty high kitchen pantry, and it's deep, and there's lots of items in it that I haven't used for a while, baking items. So I'm going through it because it is Christmas time and it's time to do some baking, and I'm going to be doing a cheesecake, but I wasn't sure of the flavour. Turns out that my family have found, not that they are hidden, but have found in my crates my chocolates that I'd put away for Christmas, as well as things like the crisps for next year for them to have crisps throughout the year. And my son has found all of the CCs and eaten most of them. My husband has found the chocolate bars and eaten quite a few of the cherry ripes. So that is reducing the amount of food that they're going to be having next year, and I'm going to have to be a little bit more mindful of stretching their sweet budget. Now, if you're like me and you've got one of those pantry ferries, then you'll appreciate grinding up all of your biscuits early so that they don't get munched on, because having an open packet of biscuits, you tend to eat the whole packet of biscuits, or quite a lot of them. So I tend to blend them up. So at least I know they're not going to get into my bickies, which is good because I'm going to need them for this cheesecake. But when I was going through the pantry, I came across pineapple, which has no use-by date on it, but I know this can has been in there for a number of years. The only reason I have pineapple is to make hummingbird cake, and I normally have the diced up pieces or the mashed up pieces, and these are whole slices, so I'd say that's why they've been left to now. Let's use them, put them into the cake as well. And I found some jellies. We don't generally have much jelly, and we only use this during the Christmas period for making trifle. And a couple of years ago, I did a rainbow trifle. That's where this guy came in. It was raspberry, orange, lime, and I think it was mandarin maybe as well. But either way, it was like 4 colours and possibly grey, 5 colours for the purple. But either way, this one here has past its use by date, which was in September of 22. Not surprising, because it was the year before that we had a very big family gathering and I made some 30 plus desserts. So that one is past its use by date somewhat, you might say. These ones have just gone past their use by date earlier this year in March of 2025, and they are raspberry. So I've got raspberry, I've got pineapple, and I've got a recipe in my book for a raspberry pineapple coconut cheesecake. So perfect, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to make mini cheesecakes because that's even easier. So I've got out my muffin tin as well, and I've lined it with some muffin liners, and we're just going to go ahead and make that as well. And then I'm going to get on to the bread. So many interruptions already today. All right, cheesecake. We have in the bowl 180 grams of plain biscuits and a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I had some ground up biscuit crumbs already in the pantry. That's how I put my biscuits so that they don't get consumed except for using in cakes, etc. So this is Scotch finger biscuits and some butter stacks biscuits and a teaspoon of cinnamon. I have got 80 grams of melted Butterlex, non-dairy Butterlex. This won't be a non-dairy cheesecake, but I'm going to try to make it as dairy-free as possible. But there will be dairy in this one. I'm not going to the extent for this particular little cheesecakes, because these are going to be eaten by people that can have dairy. And I don't want to use up all of my coconut condensed milks and things like that. So there are members of the family that are vegan, and so they don't want dairy. And then there are a few of the members, like myself, who are not allowed to have dairy. And then there's the rest of the family that want all the dairy they can get. So I kind of try to make something that suits everybody. And it's a treat. It's once a year, it's Christmas, and if the family that, technically shouldn't be having dairy decide they want some of the dairy cheesecakes, then they can. It's okay. But they do have options for not having dairy. And that's just the joys of having family with different dietary requirements. So, but when I do a vegan cheesecake or a non-dairy cheesecake, absolutely nobody knows the difference, and everybody does enjoy it. The only people that notice the difference is when they see that my daughter and I are eating it. Then they know there's no dairy or it's vegan, and they know that that's what they're getting. And they usually give it a go, and they're usually pretty happy with it. All right, so into the bases, I will pop in a scoop of each of these biscuit crumbs and just go ahead and fill all of these molds, and this will form the base of the mini cheesecakes. Alrighty, so we're going to fill our cases. What I'm going to do is just use an empty case. I'm going to pop it in, and I'm going to use that as I press down on my cheesecake base. I'm not getting my hands covered in cake mixture or anything doing it this way, but I still get to press them down really well and make them really firm at the bottom. Then this can go into the fridge and continue in there to set up while we continue to make the filling. Okay, Vegemite scroll away. Let's get on to the filling for our cheesecake. Let's start with the condensed milk, but not condensed milk. We're going to do it quickly in the stand mixer, and we are going to use coconut powdered milk instead. 80 grams of melted Nuttall-X dairy-free butter. So this part of the cheesecakes, again, is going to be more dairy-free, but I'm doing it this way because I need the coconut flavour. Now, in the cupboard, I've got my regular coconut milk powder. I also have my emergency stash of coconut powders. These are a lot more expensive, but checking the dates, these ones are 2027, and this one is July of 2026. So I'm going to use this one, and I need 110 grams of coconut powder. So by melting the butter and adding the coconut powder, this is coconut milk powder, it's going to form the condensed milk in the mixing bowl pretty quickly. All I have to do then is add maple syrup to it. I'm just going to whisk it up until it's well combined and, you know, is starting to thicken like condensed milk does. And then I'm just going to continue to make the cheesecake with the regular ingredients. Right, so 110 grams of the coconut milk powder. So if I was just going to make coconut milk powdered condensed milk, so a dairy-free condensed milk, I'd do exactly the same thing as I'm doing now, but I would then put it into the fridge, okay, to thicken up. But because we are doing a cheesecake, we do not need it thick at this point. It will thicken up when it's sitting in the fridge. Alrighty, so all of that, the melted butter, the 110 grams of the coconut milk powder, and then our maple syrup here, which we made up just a couple of days ago. Remember I said I did need to use maple syrup in baking, and that is why, because I need it for making condensed milk. Of course, now I can't get the top off. Give me a moment. We need 1/4 cup. I'll whip that up. That's the bread ready. I'm going to be moving on to that in a moment. I wanted to get this cheesecake done first, so the bread can just sit for a bit until I'm ready. Alrighty, let's whip all that up. While that's poured in there, I'm just going to drizzle in a little bit of boiling water just to help that mix really well through. That's fine. Okay. That took no time at all. That's the condensed milk, the coconut condensed milk that I've made up instead. There we are. Beautiful. Now, like I said, it can go in the fridge to set even firmer. I don't need it to set because we're doing a cheesecake. I'm just going to pour it out of the bowl because I need the bowl to get the jelly and the cream cheese together as well. And that, again, really simple process. I'm just going to continue to use these 2 bowls, right? No more. So let's mix up the jelly. 125 mils of boiling water straight into that bowl that I've just used to make the condensed milk. So it will help rinse that out at the same time. 1 packet of the raspberry jelly crystals. We'll put that in. We'll just get that whisking up. Simple. I also need to open a can of pineapple because I only need technically 150 grams of pineapple, and this tin is 225, so I might just take out one of the rings. While that jelly is coming together, I'm going to add the cream cheese into it as well. It helps to soften the cream cheese by adding it to the boiling liquid. So that there is the jelly. That is still nice and hot, and I have 1 packet of just a standard Philadelphia original cream cheese. Okay, so I'm not doing a dairy-free version of this. Like I said, I'm just going to eliminate as much dairy as I can from this. But as far as doing a cream cheese today as well, don't really have the time for that. And I specifically bought all of these cream cheeses and things for Christmas desserts, so they need to get used. So that's our Philadelphia cream cheese, our jelly as well. And now I'm just going to add in the condensed milk. So that's our coconut flavour. Final ingredient, 1 pot of cream. So this is thickened cream out of the freezer only like half an hour or so ago, and it's already defrosted enough that I can add it into the blender as well. I'm just going to stop the blender and just get this cream in there. Alrighty, let's get that going. And some of the cream is still frozen, which is going to chill this down really quickly. So I'm just going to make sure that's really well blended, because nobody wants a big chunk of cream in the middle of the cheesecakes, especially when we're doing individual little mini cheesecakes. All right, that's just going to blitz together for a little while until it's well incorporated, and it's that simple. And then I've just got to add the pineapple that I need to chop up. Alrighty, I have added a second jelly because I don't like the texture of the filling. I don't think it's thick enough. So I've added an extra jelly because I'd much rather it set than not set. Either it's going to set too hard or, we'll soon find out. I'll just add the pineapple pieces into it, stir them through because I don't want them completely gone. I still want there to be some texture, and probably could have just put a little bit of each of them. Now I've put it in, it's too late. I could have just put a little bit of the pineapple in the bottom of each of the muffins since I'm doing individual ones, but I'll try to make sure I get some pineapple in each of the little cheesecakes, which we'll put into moulds now. Now, I've got my 12 moulds. I have a feeling there's going to be enough of this mix left over. The recipe that I was using that's written in the family book says makes 10. I've made 12, but I have a feeling they were our bigger muffins, not these smaller cupcake size ones, which isn't a problem because I've got some of the biscuit crumbs still left over. So I can very easily put some into a smaller individual cheesecake for the fridge as a sample, I guess. I'll just ladle in enough to fill each of these cups. I will get another container, because I don't think anyone's ever complained about having too much cheesecake. All right, so I'll put those into the fridge. Just clean up the tray quickly. Not a lot of space in the fridge or freezers at the moment, which is good, but I am still doing preserving out of the fridge to free up some space in there also. I'll put these away. Just going to put the last of the biscuit crumbs. I'm not going to add butter. I don't need the additional butter in the bottom of this one. A crumb is fine, And then I'll just pour the remainder in through the mix in, and then they can have like little cheesecake slice as well. Because baking and cooking from scratch, doing new ingredients, new recipes, sometimes, got to pivot. Especially when I'm baking. Everybody knows I rarely follow a recipe when it comes to baking, especially cheesecakes. I have my bases, and then I just do whatever recipe I have seen. I may have seen like last year it was Biscoff. I saw Biscoff cheesecakes. They were a big thing last year, and I went, yep, I want to make that. I have no recipe for a Biscoff cheesecake, so I just used my base that I always have, and I just swapped out flavours. Simple as that. And that's exactly what we've kind of done here, although I was sort of following a recipe until I wasn't, Just not sure about that jelly. All right, that one can go in the fridge as well. All right, let's do the bread rolls. So the reason I'm doing the test bread roll recipes today is not because I need a recipe test, it's because I need a size test for this guy. So I want to make bread rolls, and this is a new kitchen gadget. kitchen accessory, whatever, I want to give this guy a go because it's supposed to make these beautiful burger buns. So let's find out if it does or not. And I will be testing it. Now, I don't know whether or not that needs to go onto a tray into the oven. You know, I don't use silicone bakeware usually. So, you know, drop me a message. Let me know whether or not that needs to have like a cookie tray under it or whether or not it's okay just straight on the trays or the racks in the oven. I don't know. I'm going to find out. I'm going to do it on a tray this time around and then we'll see. Alrighty, our dough. That's our dough. Let's get that out. Just need some oil onto my liner. No flour, just oil. It's fine. And then we will get this guy out. Feels beautiful. Always, I like to flip them over. It's the way I was taught to flip them over so that this is all the light aerated area and it's the inside of the bread. The outside of the bread always stays the top. So I'm going to try to keep doing that throughout this process. So I'm just using fingers just to degass that dough now that it has well and truly proofed. I didn't want to overproof it. And then I'm just going to roll it all up just as I normally would do with a sandwich loaf. And then I'll portion it all out. Now this will give us those lovely rolls that should make the bread rolls nice, light and fluffy. And any excess, like I said, I am going to be making a little loaf as well with anything that's left over because I've got a half loaf. This makes a full 1 kilo loaf and I don't need that much to do just the 6 bread rolls. So we will see. I should only need 600 grams. For this trial, I'll do them at about 100 grams. We'll see how that looks. If it's too small, then I'll go up, but I'm sort of aiming for 100 grams. We'll see. That's 125. I'm not normally as fussy about my size, except because we are going to be measuring how much dough I've got and how many rolls I'm going to get from it. These are all going to be about 120 is what I'm going to make them. You know, if they're too big, they're too big. It might save me having to make an extra loaf of bread today. We'll see. Yeah, no, still going to have some left over. We might just do a couple freeform. Whew. 185. I'll do that into a little loaf separately. Alrighty, bread rolls. Let's get them shaped and see what they look like. So I'm just going to bring them up, roll them around, tension them, same as I always do. Nothing different about them. They're just bigger than I normally do. Roll on them. Alright, they're going in here. Alrighty. Yeah, that looks so small, but they've still got to rise. Alrighty. We'll see. So these ones I'll have to put it down somewhere, 125 grams, and I think they'll actually be big enough because they've still got to rise. I think that's okay. And then I'm also going to be glazing them and putting the sesame seeds over the top as well. Wouldn't normally go to all of that extent, but it is Christmas, so I thought I would do something nice for the family and make the fresh bread rolls. You know, why not? Because you can't get freshly baked bread rolls on Christmas Day. So I thought, you know what, I'll just do it. Anyways, let's see what they're like. Alrighty, I'm going to spray. I'm going to make a quick egg wash up and get some sesame seeds on top of these while they're still rising. I will just keep them covered for now until I get that egg wash onto them. Okay, let's just get these brushed and get the sesame seeds on the top of them as well. Always love dropping eggs. It just makes my day, you know, because now I've got egg whites all over the floor in the kitchen. It's not my plan. I opened the fridge too fast, and of course out came an egg, and I thought I caught it okay until I put it into the cup and realised I had an egg yolk and no egg whites, and the egg white was all over the floor. So now I've got another job to clean up, you know, just because I've got more jobs to clean up. Love it. Not. Well, this will help keep them nice and moist while these are rising anyway. All right, that's my egg wash. I'll get my sesame seeds. Sesame seeds just untoasted because they're going to roast further in the oven while these are cooking. You know, let's just give that a go. We'll see how they turn out. All right, so the oven is preheating. Let's put them in the oven and we'll do a test bake, 15 minutes, 220. Alrighty, 20 minutes. They look pretty good, you know. Whew, for a silicone tray, it gets hot. Alrighty. I'll have to check the temp to see if they are fully cooked inside. They still feel quite heavy. And the bottoms look quite blonde. I might put them back in the oven. I want to turn them over. Actually, I want to take them off the tray. I think that's what I need to do. Get them off the tray and just get them straight into the oven so that they get air around the bases of them. All right, let's try that. So I'll put them back in the oven for 5 minutes. I've taken them off the baking tray and just put them straight on the oven rack instead because, you know, they've got all those holes in the bottom of the silicone mould. So I'm guessing that's probably going to be for the airflow. Let's try it. It's a new piece of kit for the kitchen. I'm not used to having silicone molds like that. So, you know, it's the first time that I've used it. It's always good for somebody else to experiment and go through all of the goods and bads of them. And I'll let you know what I think of them when I'm finished. I don't mind the shape of them. I don't like baking things that get as hot as that does, that are flimsy, okay, that move around. It's a little bit, if I could find a metal version, like a proper baking version of the bread roll molds with the air vents in the bottom, maybe that's something I will do. Have a look for something similar to that. In the meanwhile, these will work for now in the meantime anyway, but something for me to have a look at to see if I can find some different molds in the future. Alrighty, bread rolls are out of the oven. I have let them sit for an extra 5 minutes, not on a cookie tray, and they're browned up better. And the internal temps are right, you know, so they're over 94 degrees in the centres, so they're well and truly cooked through now, where they were a bit blonde earlier. I'll just flip them over and have a look inside the bases as well, so they're 94, 95 centigrade, so they're cooked all the way through, whereas before, after 20 minutes, they weren't. Let's see. Yeah, they're still a little blonde on the bottom, but you know what? They're fully cooked, so I don't want to let them, and the tops will just get too far gone. So this is a good try. Because what I will do when I cook the next batch is I won't put the cookie tray on the bottom of these silicone liners, these molds. And these molds are hot, like, you know, for silicone, they are hot, which I wasn't expecting. And I need to get the bread rolls out. Can't leave them in there because they'll just continue to cook. Right, they're out now. All right, I need to get my little loaf out as well. She's a little kitty. Ow! Why am I not wearing my baking gloves? You know, let's leave them be. I'm going to cover the bread rolls like I always do because I do not want them to be all crusty on the top. Our family don't like crusty bread rolls. You know, we like our bread rolls nice and soft, but I mean, they're a good shape. I don't mind them, you know. So that's 120 grams of dough. So it would have made 8 bread rolls with that amount. So I'll have to do my math to work out how much in this little guy. Well, you know, that's just going to get turned into something later. Alrighty, on to the next job and the final job for today because it is starting to get hot already. I'm going to head down to the dry stores area. I have a new system for storing all of the dry stores food and I'm going to share it with you guys. Okay, so you may have seen already the buckets, the big buckets, but maybe not the smaller of the big buckets, right? So the big bucket system, the the buckets with the gamma lids and the seals. Okay, so big buckets. Kegland down in Victoria is bringing them in and distributing them. And I have picked up the smaller of the sizes. I've picked up the 13.5 litre, and yes, they can be picked up. I like this. They're a good size bucket, you know, small for me who can't lift too much. And as we are getting older, I definitely appreciate something a little bit smaller than the really big buckets. Although I still need the big buckets for the 25 kilos of flour. Otherwise, I would have a lot of these buckets, because these buckets can hold 10 kilos of flour is what I've worked out. But the 35 litre handy barrels that we get and have had these in use for years, these ones are really good for the 25 kilos of flour, grains, all those kind of things. And I've got these all in the grain shed, and I use these for my animal feed. But for keeping our food, these ones here. Now, I have found that the lids are easy to get on and off, you know, especially if you have started to open them down on the ground versus just bringing a tightened bucket up higher, because you can't, well, me with my wrists, I definitely need to have that, having it down there and holding on to it, especially with these smaller buckets, because when they are tight, and I'll show you one, when they are tight, you know, and you try to open them, the whole bucket spins around, you know, because it's a smaller bucket. That's okay. Rightio, that's my sugar. With a bear? There better be a bear. I know there's a bear in here because I've put a bear in here. There it is. There's a bear in there. Oh, sugar bear. Okay, guys, that keeps the sugar from turning into rocks. So that there is the new big bucket system. And it has the gamma lids, like I said, and easy to put on, easy to close, and they stack really well, as you can see behind me, and they don't take up much space. You know, what more do you want? Good colour. They're not white. It's nice to have a change of not just having the white buckets. I like the grey buckets. What do they hold? Alrighty, what they do hold. They hold 10 kilos of rice easily. They hold 10 kilos of flour quite well. I won't say easily, but they do hold 10 kilos of flour as well. That's what this one is, all-purpose flour. So it holds 10 kilos, not 12.5. 12.5, you need to go up the next size. All right, so that's 10 kilos of plain flour, bay leaves. That's all that's in there. It's just to keep the bugs out and just to deter them. But they are sealed completely. And they are going down into an area in the lower part of the house, but you know, that doesn't stop bugs getting into your produce, and I don't want any bugs getting into these buckets or anything else. And I don't store in the buckets in the packaging, like in a paper bag. It just deteriorates anyway, and I don't want that transfer of flavour going into my flour, so I always open my bags and take them out. It also makes it a lot easier to get things in and out of the buckets if they don't. The buckets simply get labelled, you know, as you do. Label your buckets, date the buckets that you are putting your product in it, not the date on your products. It's the date that you are packaging your products, so you've got an idea. But yet they stack easily, not a problem. I can lift up 10 kilos. That's not a problem. Me lifting 10 kilos is not a problem. Me undoing a weighted lid is a difficult thing. The handy buckets are beautiful, you know, for your big weights. This one clearly is empty because I'm picking it up. But when it gets undone, although it does have a similar, but it's not a gamma lid, it does have a similar lid. When you undo it, this whole band comes off. These are really difficult when they get a little bit dusty, and especially if they get flour in them, they can be very difficult to get out. But this one is getting used for storage of 25 kilos of flour, and it's a 35 litre bucket, and it's perfect. But for me to purchase buckets now at this stage of our lives, it makes more sense for us to buy the smaller of the sizes. They get stacked just the same as the big ones, except they've got a weight in it that I can lift, and that's manageable for me, so I particularly love them. And because Rachel has got the discount code with Bush Edge Australia for the Kegland supply of these at the moment, and you can put that in at the register. So go to Bush Edge Australia, have a look for the video in where she is showing the buckets and her picking them up. And in the description, you will find a code that you can put in at the checkout for the buckets. And for me, it meant saving the cost of postage. So I put in my order, and this was a trial order just to see how much I could fit into these smaller buckets to give me an idea of how many buckets I needed when I was replacing my bucket system that I've got. Most important for me was being able to lift them, okay, and I can do that, so I definitely would recommend them, and they are fantastic. So once again, thank you, Kegland, for bringing those in for us and for listening to your customers and knowing that that's something that we needed. Alrighty. I need to get some work done, because on top of those buckets, I have peas and beans and all sorts of things that I still need to sort through and go through down there in the pantry, as well as getting a 25-kilo bag of flour in that now empty barrel as well. Thanks very much for joining me, guys, and Merry Christmas to everybody. It is 2 weeks from Christmas now, so things will ramp up with the Christmas desserts and baking as well. And I have got a ham that needs to be sorted for Christmas this year as well. So lots and lots of things to be doing, as well as smoking. Lots of different food preservation ideas still to come. All right, thanks again for viewing, guys. Bye now.